You can save as this one, or you can start a brand new one, um, and call it assignment 9 blocks. Save. All right. So the first thing I'd like to tell you is that when you bring a file from anywhere into this file, when you bring one file into another file, that block goes on the current layer. So you want to either use layer 0 or create another layer that represents whatever the fixtures or furniture or whatever symbols they are. So let's go to layer properties. And you should have layer 0 highlighted first before you start a brand new layer so that you can pick up those default settings. That's just kind of a recommendation. Is if I had this one, let's say I had this one right here highlighted when I make a new layer, it's going to pick up cyan and hidden. So I'm going to highlight layer 0. I'm going to go ahead and click on new layer icon right here. And I'll call this furniture. But if you were working with other things, you could call it whatever those things are, right? And so the furniture layer, maybe we want to make that a different color. I'm running out of colors here to use. I'll use like purple. I don't know if that's going to show up though. So I'll use orange. Okay. All right, you can use whatever color you want, but more importantly, we want to set that one current. Double click here next to furniture to set that one current. You see how it makes it the top one, and I'm going to close out of the layer dialog box right there. So really the only thing we did was create a new layer and set it current. Okay, now I will come back to what you can do if you only have a Mac, but I really want to show you the Design Center before we use that file that I posted. So if you press Control and the number 2, Control 2, Control 2 should give you this. If you're having a hard time with Control 2, it is, I don't use this part very often, but I think it's under View. One of these little icons right here, that's why I like it changes each time right there. One of these little icons in the View tab is also the Design Center. And if you ever have a hard time finding a command, you can look it up and find out what the type in is. You see how the type in for Design Center is AD Center, but Control 2 brings you there too. So I'm just going to go back to the Home tab, and here it is. Now, if you didn't get it, it's okay. I need you to know that the Design Center is here because companies are using the Design Center to kind of everybody work together on a server. And it should bring you right to the Design Center folder right there. But if it doesn't, it might, no, actually, I think it'll bring you to sample. You'll find the sample folder right there. Double click on the sample folder. And then I don't know why they put it under ENUS right there. Double click. I'm going to post, I think I already did. Did I post this document? No. Additional AutoCAD, no. So I'm going to post a document that shows you that that link as well. So sample ENUS, and then double click on Design Center, or pick the little plus sign, see in the front there, it opens it up. So what we're looking at here in the Design Center are all of these DWG files that have blocks inside of them. So double click on Home Space Planner and then click on Blocks. And what you see is that we have blocks inside a drawing. So that means that if you're on a server and you have 100 people in your company, you can go into that person's drawing, not opening it, but through the Design Center, you can see, what kind of blocks they have in their files, and then you can use those. So the idea behind this is that companies will have huge libraries of blocks or files. They're files, really. And you can use the Design Center to go into those files and pull the blocks from that file out into your drawing. Okay, so I'm going to close these two bottom parts right here. I'm just going to X out of these. These are the descriptions, but I don't have a description in these. So I'm going to go click out of those. And I can kind of make this one a little bit smaller by holding my pointer on the edge and pulling it in like this. It's up to you if you want to do all of that. I want to go back for a minute. Well, no, I'll keep going. So at this point, I can click on the furniture, whatever it is. Maybe I'll bring a plant, take the plant in, and hold my left mouse button down on that plant and drag and drop it out into the drawing. There it is. You see how it changed colors? Because it's going on the furniture layer. So this is something, if you hold your left mouse button down, drag it out, there it is. That's why we draw everything at full scale, guys. So that when you are exchanging files, you don't have to mess around with scale. Now, if I click on it and I hold my right mouse button down and I let go, I can pick copy here or paste as a block. Now, if I right click right on, instead of dragging it over, I'm going to just rest my pointer on one of these. Let me see here. Where am I going? Maybe a bed. Actually, I wonder if I have. Yeah. So I can right click on the file and pick insert block. If you right click with your pointer on the file and pick insert block, you'll go to a dialog box that gives you a few more choices in case you wanted to rotate it or change the scale. I don't usually have to do any of these, but the main thing would be to have an insertion point. Instead of just dragging it randomly somewhere, you would have specify on screen the insertion point. Look what happens when you pick OK. Now you'll see that the insertion point that was created for that block originally is, you know, where you end up with it on your pointer. So now I have like more control over where it's going. I'm going to go ahead and click. All right, if you have a hard time getting to this, before I go any further, you guys go ahead and pull out at least 5 or 6 different blocks. I mean, actually, no, let's go down. You can get into house designer. Yeah, house designer has a toilet and a sink. I don't really care if you decide to get other things too. Just remember that these are in plan. So, you know, I wouldn't want to bring in a floor plan, the side view of a toilet, right? And then another one for floor plans would be potentially landscape, I think, and kitchens. So there's like a big pool here you can bring in and some trees. You can see everything's drawn at full scale. So you're going to see it there. Kitchens, here's kitchens. You have a double sink. Where is it? There it is. A single sink of arrange some things that you can bring in that are plan view. But look at these other files that were given to us here with the download. We have fasteners like bolts and electrical, you know, circuits and things that might work towards your direction, some HVAC blocks, little controls. Okay, if you had a hard time getting to this folder, let me backtrack a little bit to let you know that there's a little home icon right there at the top of this, right there. That home icon will always bring you back to the sample folder. And now I can go into ENUS and Design Center and then back to where we were going here. I just wanted to point out to you that this little home icon will bring you back to it. All right, So now that I have all of these blocks here, it's up to you if you want to keep this palette open or not. Let's close out of it. I'm just going to close out of it because I already have the blocks. And at this point, you can drag the furniture into your floor plan that you want. That's one way. So I want to just click on this and hold my left mouse button down and drag it over here. Or another way is to click on it and use this little blue grip. The blue grip is like an insertion point right there. The only thing with that is that you have to watch your object snaps because it's gonna like pull you around a little bit. But you know what? That little object snap, this little grip right there, becomes a good base point for rotating. So we already did a few commands in the modify panel. But if you select any one of these, you'll see this little blue grip. I'm going to use my escape key because I only want one selected. I'm going to click on this table. I'm going to click in the blue grip right there. I'm going to right click and pick rotate. And then I can pull my mouse up and click. There's my rotate. Now I can drag it over and put it in my drawing, wherever you want to put it. Okay, that's the first part, using the design center. Any questions? Are there any questions? Okay, I just want to make sure. All right. So using the design center, we can pull blocks from the server. It's not just blocks. Wait, I do want to show you something really quick. Inside these files, I did a Control-2 to get back to it, because that's another way of opening and closing it. Inside this file, look at all these other things that you can like bring into your file from other files. So let's say that although this file only has one layer to it, let's say that I'm networked and I have a template file out there. The template file, which we haven't created yet, but let's just say somebody you work with, has all the right layers, or a template file that has all the layers. You could go into that file using the design center, highlight layers, and then same thing. If I had another layer here, I could drag it into my drawing, and then it will automatically populate. So this is very effective if you are bringing in these types of settings, even dimension styles. Let's say you didn't realize that you needed a dimension style that was the company style, but you find out where the template file is. You can use the design center to pull that in, all the settings, right? Yeah. As long as it has its own name. Remember when we typed in D and enter, we were changing the standard style, dimension style. It needs to have like a name to it because there's already the standard style here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. I just wanted to point that out to you, that there's more than just blocks that you can bring into a file through the design center. So if you don't have the design center, then go ahead and open up this other file, this one that I put in the Canvas module. And you'll see that what I did was I brought these into a blank file as a block, and then I exploded them so that the whole thing wasn't all one piece. So this whole thing would be all one piece. When you bring one file into another file, then like and insert it, it's all one piece. It becomes a block. So now that you have this one open, you have both of them open, you see how we have these two different tabs? You can go to the View tab right there and pick Tile Vertically. It's at the far right side. So I'm not in the Home tab anymore, guys. I'm over in the View tab. I'm going to click Tile Vertically to see what it does. It brings you to whatever files you have. You're going to tile vertically. We don't need this one. I'm not going to close out of it, but I'm going to minimize it. right there. Then I'm going to pick tile vertically again. And now what do I have? I have the two files side by side. You can go inside one of them and double click on the wheel if you want to see the zoom extents. But you see what happens? I can click in this one and have control over it. I can click in this one and have control over it. Now, if you started a command in one of them and clicked into the other one, that command's still running, just so you know. So make sure that in this floor plan drawing, you're back at, nothing in the command line. Use your escape key to make sure you're out of everything. So what I can do now is I can select, let's see, maybe I want a kitchen thing. I don't know. You decide. Did I already get a few things? I already did. Okay, let's see what else I didn't get. Maybe I want this piano. So what I can do is I can select this piano in this block file, and I can hold. Now this is where it's you don't click inside this grip because see it won't go anywhere. You want to hold your left mouse button down on the object right there and drag and drop it. Look at that. Now the difference is that with this release of AutoCAD, it does go back to the layer 0. It doesn't go on the furniture layer when you drag it that way. When you drag and drop it using your left mouse button. Now let's try the right mouse button. So select something different, maybe the spiral staircase, but this time I'm going to anywhere hold your right mouse button down and drag it over here and let go. See, now you have choices when you use your right mouse button. You can paste it as a block. You can copy here. So I'm going to paste it as a block, or you can paste it to the original coordinates, which is kind of cool. Sometimes when you have things that are set in a coordinate system, paste a block. You see what happens? I paste it as a block, and because I pasted it as a block, it actually went on the furniture layer. So when you drag it over using your left mouse button, it's basically like copying it. So it goes back to the layer that it was originally created on, which in this case is layer 0. I know this is a lot of information, but it is being recorded. You can listen to it again, or you can keep it for future reference. You start working somewhere and you need to brush up on blocks. This could be a good source. But just get the big basic picture that you're bringing one file into another. That's what you're doing. You're bringing one file into another. Whether it's inside a file already or you're dragging it from another file. Yeah. So there was a time when we didn't have the design center and we had to pull in a file from a folder, or we had to remember where all the good blocks are and open it up side by side like this and drag it in. So this is an option. Okay. So I'm going to maximize this assignment 9 because I'm kind of done with the other file. I'm going to leave it open just in case they want to go back to it, but let's come over here and click the middle button right there, maximize. So we're going to maximize and have this file in the whole screen, just like that. Okay, back in assignment 9. Let's go back to the home tab. So at this point, we're going to look at what happens when you want to insert one file into another. Insert another file into this file. Okay, instead of dragging it from another file, instead of using the design center, this is probably the most typical. I'm going to go up to, now whatever we bring in is going to go on the furniture layer, just so you know. So if I need it on a different layer, I could switch the layers. Okay, so go up to, in the home tab, go to this block panel. We're making our way from left to right here and click on this little arrow. underneath insert. See what's happening here? I want you to stop and look at this. All of the files that we brought into this file, all of those blocks, became blocks of their own in this file. So they're right here. The next time I need it, I don't have to go search someplace or go drag it from some other file. Also, when you bring in files from the Design Center, we're actually inserting them. And you see how they kept their name? They kept their name. But because these two were kind of dragged in from another file, AutoCAD didn't know what name to give it. So it gave it this kind of like gibberish name, $C, blah, blah, blah. And so that's kind of an issue because eventually you'll get a lot of blocks in this file that have these names that you won't be able to know. So I'll show you how to rename it, but just keep that in mind. So these are the blocks. These are the things that we brought into our file. They're coming into this folder, the file that we're working in, and this file is getting bigger. You could open up a completely blank file and it could be huge because of all the blocks that are loaded into it. So we do use a command called purge to purge those extra things out of your files, especially when they're archived. So what we want to do is we want to bring in blocks from libraries. We're using the insert command to bring in a DWG or a block from a library. So click on blocks from library. The first time that you use it, you'll get this dialog box. You'll see that when we use it again, it'll turn into a different palette. So here it is. What I'd like you to do is to navigate over to your files, the files that we've been using in this class. I have to think about where all those are. Okay. Oops, wrong folder. Where are you? There you are. What happened? Oh, my folders. Oh, because I clicked on this accidentally, it shifted my folders to be upside down. Okay. So all of these files that we've already drawn, let's just pick one that's smaller. Like we don't really want, let me see, like assignment. Where's assignment 2? What? I didn't bring assignment 2. Any one of these, actually the gasket, assignment 4, 5, or 6, even 7. Any of these. Probably not 3, because 3 was big, but we might still do that too. All right, so I'm just going to randomly pick, let me see, assignment 6. You can pick whatever. Double click on assignment 6. What we're doing is we're inserting this drawing. We're inserting another drawing into our current drawing. So double click on assignment 6. And you see, this is the new palette that's going to be created, and you have to give it a minute to load. The next time that you go up to insert and blocks from library, you'll probably get this. So now that it's loaded, I can hold my left mouse button down on that image right there and drag it out into my drawing and let go. Wow, look how small it is. Why is it small? Because it's drawn small. This is only like 6 inches by 10 inches, 6 by 10. And you see how the whole thing is all one piece? So you see how in comparison to everything else, which is all architectural and huge, this is going to be really small. Now, if you didn't have this file and you just started a brand new drawing, it would be large, right? And so would this pool would be even bigger. You'd probably have to back up a little just to see it. If you didn't open from this file and you started a brand new drawing and you brought this pool in, you'd have to zoom extents, double click on the wheel of your mouse just to like see it because you're zoomed down so far. So that's one. And look what it did when you go up to insert. You see what it did? It created a block inside this file. So this is kind of the bigger picture information about blocks, to be honest. You're inserting one file into another. And you're finding out that when you insert one file into another, the whole block goes on the current layer. It also creates a block inside the file so that you can go get it later on and not have to navigate through all of that. And it's a great way to not have to draw something over again. This is probably what took if I had to guess at one thing, this is probably the one thing that pushed us into or out of hand drafting and into CAD. Because instead of redrawing it, instead of like we used to like make sticky backs and put them on the sheets. It was crazy. We have a whole library of things that we draw over and over again. We can just pop them on, and sometimes honestly, the project's done in a third of the time or a quarter of the time that you would have taken having to draw all those things. Right? Okay. So if you want to bring in another block, look when I pick blocks from library, it's this palette now that we're using. So if I'm going to bring in another one, so you either have to click on this drop down and go all the way down to blocks from library, or here you see how this little icon right there is the same as that one. So you can click on the bottom here, blocks from browse block libraries, or you can click on that little icon right there. Either way, go ahead and do that. And then you get this dialog box, right? It should put you in the same folder. So now I'm going to bring something else in. Assignment 5. Wait for it to load. Here it is right there. Hold your left mouse button down on it, drag it over, really small. Let go. Let's go ahead and pick something a little bit bigger, like that metric one. Yes. And in fact, this is another way of converting a file is to insert a metric file into a drawing that's been set up for English Imperial units. Okay, so here I'm going to go ahead and go back down to block from library. What was that big one? I think it was assignment. No, it was. I think it was assignment 3. Was that the big one? I think it was. Assignment 3, top, front, side. It doesn't matter if you just bring in the side view. Let's just see what happens when you drag it over. Yeah, check it out. So much bigger because that's the metric drawing, 25.4 times bigger. Okay. So when you submit this, we're not ready yet, but when you submit this, you're going to show me that you brought in these blocks, that you have some from the design center, or at least from the file that I posted, and you're going to have, files from the other, inserted files from other drawings that we did. Okay, so a couple more things. That's really the basics of it right there. Those are the basics, the introduction basics. You can use the design center. You can drag and drop from another file. You can insert right here, which is kind of typical from blocks from libraries, because a lot of companies already have libraries of blocks. You can purchase blocks online or find a lot of them for free. In fact, all of the manufacturers that want you to use their products have them for free. So if you had to put a window in plan and in elevation, or any of those manufacturing tools that you go to the company's website and you look for, free blocks, they will have a section that you can use to download them for free. Now, when you download those for free, you want to open those up and check out what kind of layers they use. Because if you bring in a block from a company and they have like 5 layers that are outside of your standards, you may want to open up that block, that file that you got from a company or free, and clean it up a little. Move things to the right layers and set it up so that it kind of works within your standards before you insert it into your drawing, if that matters to you. And it will matter if you work with the company that wants the file back. There are companies like GM that will say you have to stay within our standards because we want the file back. And there have been a couple of times when I had, in my beginning time, the different settings, and when we gave them the file back, they sent the file back and said, no, you have to do it this way to keep everything organized. And keep everything organized so that when you give the file back to them, you've got the right layers, you've got everything set up. Why? Because also not just layers come, like we said, all the layers will come. Look at all the layers that came. In fact, if you look in your layer dropdown, I'm sure you have a few more layers that you didn't have in this file. In fact, there's hatch right there. We didn't create a hatch file layer for this file. It came in from one of those other ones. Good reason to keep everything organized. And I think I said this earlier. If you're off by just one letter, I'm looking for one here. If you're off by just one letter, oh, here it is. I've got now 2 layers. One's called center and the other one's called center line. You definitely want to avoid that. Now, there are some advanced tools that you can use to combine layers, kind of like translates them together. But yeah, keep everything organized and you won't have these multiple layers, or clean it up before you insert it. Okay, and dimension styles too. If there's a dimension style that's within this, a new one, it's going to come in as well. So we used to explode blocks all the time. Explode them and then modify them, because you might bring something in that's similar to what you need, but you need to change it in some way. Like, for instance, maybe, and I'm just going to pick this, but you can pick any one of these blocks. Let's just say that I didn't like these lines that are in this table. Instead of exploding it and then changing it and then having to create it as another block, you can double click. Let's do this together. Any one of your blocks here, double click on the block and it will go right to that block. Pick OK. And now you are inside the block. And you see how you can access all of these different lines and things? Excuse me. So you're in an editing mode inside the block. It's called a block editor. So I'm just going to click in space right there, and I'm just going to pull my mouse across all these things, but you can change it in any way. You can just, whatever you've double clicked on, change it in some way. I'm going to select all of these things, right click and erase. If you want to erase a chair, maybe I want to erase these chairs right here. Just going to select them, right click and erase. So now I'm like changing a block. And now I'm going to pick the green check mark to close the block editor. And it's going to say to me, do you want to save the changes or discard them? When I pick save the changes, every one of these that's inserted into my drawing will update, but it won't affect the original one, because when you use blocks, they come in and they like disconnect from wherever you got them from. So let's go ahead and pick save the changes. And see, I've got a whole new block. It's still a block reference, still that block, but it's modified because I double clicked on it and I went into the block editor and I saved the changes. Now, if I had 10 tables that same name, that's the main thing, then they would all change. Could be a good thing, could be something to look out for. Right. And if you insert a block and a dialog box pops up that says there's already one that exists, are you sure you want to change it? Be careful there, because if you have a block that's already in the file that's called chair, and now you're bringing in a different, another one that's called chair, but it's a different chair, all the chairs will be replaced by the one that you're bringing in, and that's if they both have the exact same name and they're different, right? Okay, so I think we, any questions so far? I just want to make sure that we have kind of a question period here for us. Just want to make sure that everybody heard what we're saying, and that if you have any questions, I'm here to help you with those things.
I just had
Um,
a quick question.
yeah.
So for one of the block, when you like brung in one of your blocks, like for the assignment, I think that's assignment 5 that you brought in. Um, I have like another, I think I have like assignment 3 or something. That's I imported, but
Mhm.
my block is like it's a lot smaller than yours. Did you set the scale factor to one of your assignment blocks? Did you change the scale factor?
Hey, this is a really good question. Thank you. And the reason this is a really good question is there is a way to set the scale of when you bring in those drawings. Well, one thing is down here. One of your options down here is to change the scale. Or let me just say that when I insert this, um, when I insert this right here, there is an option in here to change the scale. But the main thing to look for is type in units. Type in units. There, there's like 4 different answers to everything, but I love being able to investigate, right? So type in units and take a look at this insertion scale. We didn't change that, but if you did change this, for either this file or the other one, this is the scale that it's going to be inserted at. So if you had the original file, go into the original file and check to see what the units are. Look at all these units. Isn't this crazy? I didn't even know what a parsec was until I watched like Star Wars or something, and they said it in a sentence, and I was like, wait, I saw that. It was in AutoCAD. It's like light years away. Um, so if you're, for instance, if you're bringing it from metric to English imperial units, you could, change it to millimeters or centimeters. So this is the insertion scale. That's the best answer I have for you, is that the insertion scale was changed. That's one thing. The other thing would be, to answer that, would be when you bring in a file, um, over here, I'll just bring in this one. Um, yeah. So yeah. So when you bring in these files, you can change in this. It should give you the dialog box again to show you the dialog box to change it. But down here, instead of clicking on insertion point, if I click on scale and I change the scale to, let's say 2, like you see how it's going to be like twice the size. So If I type in S for scale and I type in like 0.5, see it's going to be like half the size. So that's another way of changing the scale, but you wouldn't want to change the scale. It should come in. We would have to look at your file and see what actually happened. But it doesn't have too much to do with scale factor. Um, Individual scale factors that we worked with inside that file. It has more to do with like the scale of the whole drawing and how it's inserted, either through the insertion scale with typing in units or like scale when you actually inserted it. I don't know exactly what might have happened with yours, but those are the answers. We could take a look at that afterwards if you want to like do a little more investigating or send me the file. I would love to just go in there and check it out. Okay?
All right.
Yeah. All right. Good question. Really good question. Any other questions, guys? I will show you something else. If I explode, okay, I'm gonna just do it to yeah, I'll just come up to one of these little ones. So I use the standard dimension style. So this is a good reason why you might want to create your own new style, because I modified the standard style and there's already a standard dimension style in here. So if I click on explode right here underneath erase, we've used this before, and I select this block and I enter, whoa, look at what's happening. I used the smaller one just so you can see it. What's happening there? What's happening is that I use the standard style for this little drawing, and I modified the standard style in this bigger floor plan drawing. I'm going to leave it because it looks pretty cool, honestly. And if this happened to you, just leave it. I don't know. I could probably pull this one away from it. Um, so the standard style in this drawing that we modified had this overall scale factor of 48 because it's larger. And now I'm bringing in a file that's smaller and I use the same standard. When you type in D and enter, all of these dimension styles, because we use standard, it's when you explode something, it'll match what's in the drawing. So that's another reason why we may want to click on new when we're creating our dimension styles and use something else, because it'll still stay on that dimension style that was originally created. Okay, that's one thing I want to point out to you. When you explode things, it like weird things might happen like this. Um, Also, when you have blocks inside of blocks, you're exploding them in the order that they were received or created. Let's just say, does this one have any blocks? Let me just check it out. No, I just do an undo. So sometimes blocks have blocks inside of them. In fact, when I go over here, when I inserted this whole thing was all one block, and then I exploded it. Oh, here's one. Here's a good one to use. This is a good one to use. So let me just do this to explain it to you. What I did, this one. I'm just going to do this to explain it to you. Right. So you see how this is a block? And this is just to show you like what's going on, because you'll see this. If I have this block and I explode it. Oh, Okay, there are no other blocks in here, but there is this, which is a polyline. You see how it wasn't exploded? All right. So just know that if you have, let's say, uh, so here's an example. You have a whole set of furniture that's all one block. You bring it in and you explode it, but there's still blocks within that furniture that represent the chair or the table or the laptop that's on the table. So when you start exploding blocks, they'll explode in the order in the depth of the order of when how they were received or created. Mm. One more thing, and then I'm telling you, I'm putting 4 hours into this just to like give it all to you as much as I can without too much overwhelming. I think based on what we drew, we're good. Um, when I insert these drawings, I'm going to right click and pick insert. Okay, see where, look at where my pointer is. Where is my pointer in relation to the object? So anybody kind of guess where is my pointer in relation to that object in the original drawing? Anyone?
It's the origin.
It is the origin. Thank you. It is the 0, 0 origin. Where that little XY is, it's not the origin of this drawing I'm bringing it into. It's the origin of the file that you're inserting right there. So when you get all these files from companies and you insert them, if you don't see anything, it might be way out in space someplace. Double click on the wheel of your mouse or type in Z enter E enter to see like a zoom extents to see where it's at. So what I would suggest that you do is you open up those files and find out where the 0, 0 is. You can just start a line and type in 0, 0 like we did for this border and find out where the origin is, and then you could or look for this XY. That's where the origin is automatically. And then you could move your objects to that origin based on your insertion point, or there are a couple other things you can do. But also, when I click here, I have to watch. Oh, well, there it is. When I click, there it is. But there is no reference to the origin now, right? Other than there's a grip. The grip is over there. Yeah. See how the grip is at 0, 0? Okay, so that was the other kind of thing I wanted to mention to you is that when you insert outside files, they're going to come in with the insertion point of the original file where you got them from. Okay, well, I think I gave you a lot about blocks today. I I know there are more things. We could create a block. Hmm. There are two more things, guys. Oh, just when you thought you had it all. Let's see, it's only 10 o'clock. Let's take a look at a couple more things. So so you've exploded a block because it's similar, but not, you have to kind of like design it, and or you've created something with individual lines that wasn't a block and now you want to make it a block, right? You want to create your own block. There are two different blocks that you can create. One is to create a block that's inside this file. And then another one is to create a block that's outside of this file that you can put into a folder. Let's look at both. And this is good. I'd like this to be in your file someplace when you submit it. So let's make the layer 0 current. That's another thing. Layer 0 is set up to by Autodesk to put your blocks on as a choice, because when you insert them, they're going to take on all of the properties from the current layer. So it's a little bit different. So layer 0, let's everybody do this. We're going to, because I'll be looking for it in your drawing when you submit it. Let's draw somewhere in here a circle big enough for me to see when I'm grading it. Let's make 2 circles. I usually do another line, but let's make 2 circles, like side by side, just sort of like that. There we go. And then when I'm grading it, I'll be able to see, oh yeah, and then I'll be able to see it's a block. And I'll be able to see that it's a block that's inside the file. So we just drew 2 circles. And you know that these 2 circles are individual pieces, see that? But we're going to create a block out of those 2 circles. And so in this block panel, let's click on Create. We're creating a block that's inside this file. And we're going to give it a name. Let's just say 2 circles. That's going to give that I'm going to be able to know, because I'll be able to see that it's called 2 circles, or. So we're giving these 2 circles a name, and you see underneath base point where it says pick points, we are going to decide on an insertion point. So go ahead and click on that icon next to pick points. Let's click right in the center of one of your circles. Doesn't matter which one. Now we need to select the objects. So there's an icon right to the left of select objects. Go ahead and click on that. And select those 2 circles and enter. It should bring you back to this block definition dialog box, and you'll see the little image of the 2 circles. It's going to convert the original file back to a block, and that's it. We gave it a name, we gave it a base point or insertion point, and we selected the object. So let's go ahead and pick OK. Now, it doesn't look like anything's happened here, guys, but when you go put your pointer close to these circles, you see how they're both the same piece, and they're called a block reference. Also, when you go to insert, you can scroll down and see in here that there's your block, 2 circles. You just created a block that's inside this file. Cool, right? So if you have something that's made up of a bunch of different lines, this is a good way to bring them all together. It's going to be easier to move it around. And also you can use the Design Center later to pull it into another drawing. Any questions about that so far? So that's creating a block inside the file. Now, what happens if you've got this great drawing and now you want to start creating your own library? You want to create a whole other file out of those 2 circles, not just limited to the block being in this file. I mean, this is what happened when I transitioned to my own company. I worked in the industry for about 25 years, and then I decided to create my own when we had a kid. And so I started to create these W blocks. Question? No. W blocks. It's called a W block. So let's type in W block. It's actually a right block. So type in W block and enter. It says right block, but I don't know why. We're creating the same kind of thing. You see the same kind of questions. The difference is that now it's giving us like a destination path of where to put it. So, and also this is for just the objects. So we want the objects. So in the same way, we're going to go ahead and pick underneath base point, we're going to click on pick points and just use the other circle center, something else right there. And then we want to select the objects. So objects, we're going to click on this icon next to select objects. Now, in this case, it's a block. So we're creating a block of blocks, which is fine. It could be individual objects. It doesn't have to be a block. It could be just all individual objects. I'm going to select those 2 circles and enter. So now we did a base point. We selected the objects. It's going to retain the original objects. And now this is the important difference is I'm going to click on this little icon with the 3 little dots right there. And I'm going to navigate over to the folder we're putting all of our files in. And we're going to call it 2 circles. Maybe I'll use the number 2 circles. Yeah, don't make it the very same name because it's going to ask you if you want to replace the other 2 circles potentially. So type in like the number 2 circles and then pick save. Look at what you're doing. You're saving it into that file. And then we have everything set up. Pick OK. Now look, it doesn't seem like anything's happened, but it created a DWG in that folder called the number 2 circles. Now let's insert it back into this drawing. We can go off to, well, actually, when I go to insert, it's not in here. See, it's not in here. It's not in here because it's outside of it. And if I pick blocks from library, it's just going to give me this anyways. Which now we've got this palette. So we're just going to go down like we did before. We're inserting a file. So we're going to go to the bottom of this drop down browse block libraries. Or you can click on this icon, like I said. You should see in here 2 circles right there. That DWG that you just created using W block. And now if I double click, let it load. It actually has both of these in here because we didn't close out of it, but we're going to bring in the one that says 2 circles. I'm going to hold my left mouse button down, drag it over here and let go. There it is. Because they're still blocks. Like this is a block and this is a block. The biggest difference, and I needed to show you this, is that you can create your own block that's inside the file with this type in called block, or you can type in W block to like write a block or create a block that's a file. So that's what I did when I first started my own company. I went online and downloaded some free blocks. I took some of my best projects and I started creating a bunch of W blocks, putting them in folders. And before you know it, you've got a whole folder of different things that you can use in your projects, and you're drawing a project in half the time or less than you would normally. And that's when you really like start to make money as well. I mean, I don't ever chase the money. The money follows when you have the passion and you work hard at, getting better at anything. So my library was building, and I had everything at my fingertips to create things. Okay. All right, I think we did a lot. I mean, I think afterwards I'm going to think of something else. And since you can see it, there are attributes. I just want to mention 2 things. You might bring in a title block that has text attributes. This would be like, you can create, so I'm just going to introduce this to you. you can create a series of text that are in a block, but let me just show it to you. So just watch here. I'm going to go, we do have under open sample files and installed sample files. I mean, you could go this way with me if you wanted. You go to open sample files, installed sample files. These are sample files that come with, and one of these has what I was going to show you. Let me just randomly see if one of these has it. Probably this one. Yeah, let me just see. Open as a read only. Does it have it? Yes. Okay. Okay. So this is just to show you. I'm only showing you this randomly as an introduction to text attributes, which are part of blocks. Yeah. So it's a title block that has text in it that we're familiar with, like multi-line text or single line text, but these are text attributes where if you double click on this title block, it's usually with title blocks, you have a text editor. So if you have like a big schedule, we do this with schedules too. Instead of going line by line to create in AutoCAD all the changes, we can change it in the dialog box. That's the big thing right there, is being able to change information in a dialog box instead of like going around in the drawing. So let's say the value for this right here. This is the tag that they created, issue for construction right there. This, I haven't used this file before, but see how it took it out? This is a text attribute. I don't know if I spelled, oh, there it is. Yeah. Okay, attribute. See how it typed it in right there? So you might see that when you're opening up files wherever you work. It could be a big schedule, or it could be a title block. You see how I was easily able to change the text in a dialog box instead of changing it on the screen. That's a big thing. When I pick OK, I just put that text in there. You see how it's still a block, but I changed that. All right, that's the text attributes. I'm going to go ahead and close out of this drawing. I just wanted to show it to you. I can't save it because of the sample file. And then the last thing I want to just tell you is that we just inserted, and this is introduction, we just inserted a block. And the block or the file, all that we just did, disconnects those objects from the original. And any changes that we make to those are not going to affect the original. But there is this theory, it's not a theory. I've used it for about 10 years and companies are using it. It's called XREFs, or reference files. So if I reference a file to this file, I'm not inserting it, it's a link. So if I'm working with somebody and I want to see their drawing that they're working on, it comes into my drawing and becomes a part of it. Let's just say we're creating an assembly of parts. I know I would normally use an architectural example like a ceiling, but let's just say we have 5 different parts that make up one component. 5 different people could be working on it, but all of us could see the assembly in one file by referencing all those files to it. If I think about a ceiling, I can I can work on the ceiling pattern and I can reference the electrical, reference the mechanical, reference whatever, structural. And all of those files are all working together, but none of them are inside of each other, but I can still see it. So I would type in XREF, and this is a different dialog box. External references. If you open up a file and you find something that isn't a block, it might be that a drawing was referenced to this drawing. And so this is one way to reference the file. So it's not, I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. The XREFs or the reference files are only links. And if you really want to find out if it's in there, go to layer properties, because all the layers will be added with the file name in front of it. Okay, so that's it. I'm not doing, there's a lot to it. I told you, I'm like teaching 4-hour classes on just blocks. But I think that you got the bigger picture. Here's the bigger picture. You can bring objects in from one file to another, and it makes it a little bit better to work with. All right, any questions, guys? I think that we covered a lot of really good information about blocks. You can always listen to it again or go back. You have some things here that we're not going to create a PDF of this one. Should we? Maybe we should, because we want this to be in your palette of things that you've worked on. Yeah, let's do it. Let's create a title for this. So I think it should come in at the same height as this. So multi-line text, just gonna throw it right here. I'm gonna click here, pull my mouse across and click here. And put your cap locks on, and let's call this, what was it? Oops, I already have my assignment 9, and then blocks. If you don't have your name in there already, go ahead and put your student name, highlight here, assignment 9 blocks, and underline it. You might even change the height of it to something a little bit bigger. How much would 10 give me? Yeah, 10 inches. If you didn't do that, that's fine. I just think that it would be nice. I know I'm changing it as we go, but I really do believe that your portfolio would be better represented with this. I can even take this one out. How about that? Now we can create a PDF and I can feel good about it, because you have all of these blocks and things that you're working with, and now this is an assignment that's assignment 9 blocks. Yeah, let's do it. Right, so let's print this. We'll go up to the print dialog box. Because you have more than one file open, you have to pick continue to plot a single sheet. I kind of jumped ahead, but I wanted to make sure that we had at least multi-line text that said assignment 9 blocks, or blocks, something that says that you worked with blocks here. You should have everything set up automatically. But the difference here, the one thing that we're going to do is put the check mark in fit to paper. We're not going to be able to print this to a specific scale. So if you didn't have this file, you want to pick AutoCAD PDF, high quality print. You want to use monochrome CTB. You want to center the plot. And also we did use portrait. So let's click in front of landscape. And we have to change the window. So click on the window button now. See the window, it was originally that. No, we're going to click out way out here, get everything in there, just like that. So let's go back. The PDF, the window, bigger. The check mark and fit to paper, check mark and center the plot. monochrome, CTB, landscape, pick apply to layout, and let's preview it. I mean, yeah, it looks like this because that's what it is. You're talking about blocks. That's why you see how that's why I made my text bigger. I made it 10 inches, but you can go to town and make it, bigger even, or put it down here. It's up to you. I just want to make sure that you have this, and then you go ahead and plot it. Make sure that it's in the right folder. We want to make sure that keeping files organized is probably the biggest struggle. Even when you work with the company, which ones, which files on the server, which file is local, which is the current file, the most recent. Let's pick save and create this assignment. So now we have a PDF, because when we create our portfolio at the end of the class, it's going to kind of give you this idea that you've experienced blocks, and it doesn't have to be exactly like mine for sure, but it should have something that like shows kind of coolness of blocks. All right, I'm going to close out of these things, save my file, and now before I turn the recording off, are there any questions? Because you guys ask really good questions sometimes. I just want to make sure that those questions are answers that other people hear. All right, this was all about blocks. I know that there are a few more things, but I think I gave you the bigger picture of it all. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and guys, have a really great week. I can stick around and help anybody out once the recording stops here. And as always, I'm here to help you either remotely or on campus. I am on campus Monday through Thursday, different times though. It was a little hard to create times with a couple people that work during the day, but we found times either Saturday or Sunday morning or night. Yeah. All right then. Have a good one. Keep in touch.